and how system can really respond to this new business perspective we are talking about it.
Thank you. Last couple of years, with my engagement with the department through you and through other means, I think unlike many other states, perhaps there is a very proactive stance to work with private sector and also work with startups. We are in Bangalore, so there is no choice in fact. But I think there is a bigger need to see that this orientation which is building up can be taken to a level where it can be converted into a strategy. For example, in a couple of events we have brought many companies who are inclusive or who are trying to do good for the society, but it should not end up with a kind of a workshop and all that. So how we really then create a framework. And most importantly, the last 20 years, the amount of effort this government has done, organic and then FPO, and then building the capacity of FPO, and then also to see that a lot of convergence-based schemes and other things go down to the level of farmers FPO is already visible. So there is no context in that. So if that story is building up, then my larger hypothesis would be, do we have a choice not to work with private sector? There is no choice. When we work in this kind of agri-value chains or commodities, then working with private sector is a necessity. The question is, are we working without a strategy or are we working with a strategy? For us, with a strategy means we are getting into a system where we get the right kind of entities who would see the other side with equal fairness, with an approach which would empower the other side. I mean other side in the sense the farmers. So that kind of a strategy is an important element to look at. So in that context, some of the recommendations in our panel also I perhaps would be repeating, but that's what coming to my mind. When you look at, it's perhaps time to create a gateway, like Shyamala's point and others, create a gateway for those kind of companies to be tapped into this kind of a framework. So what is that? Who are the ones who would be standing out of 100 companies, top 10, who are ready to invest, ready to work with farmers? So that kind of an approach we need to do. State government also to be very proactive in terms of orienting a large number of companies. It's not necessary, like Santosh said, many companies we have been working, they even have very limited understanding of the capacity of social capital itself. They don't know it. Honestly, the procurement side guys, they don't have any clue how it works. So from that perspective, the first step is orienting this whole ecosystem to become, to know the realities and to know the value they will get by partnering with them. I think in this kind of a system, after orientation, some selection, some methods to put in place so that we don't just get any private sector but the right kind of. Then also we need to, I think, have an open mind to collaborate with such kind of companies in a cluster. For example, there is a spice cluster. There is, like Shyamala is talking about spices. There are fruit clusters or paddy clusters. So we have identified certain clusters, then see how we can match these companies with those kind of clusters. And also in that process, we need to also see that, not only that, we need to take the story a little bit. If government is with certain private sector, it's an asset for private sector. Can we also tap the investment community? Like monies of these worlds are there, they are also there to come and work. When government is there and government is saying these 20 companies we want to work, then those companies would find it very attractive to come and invest in this state also. So how we create this kind of entity, and linked to this also, state government with such kind of a grip over the entire social capital in a very positive way, it can also now tie up with UNSCAP or foundations to support them in building this ecosystem. It not necessarily government of Karnataka needs to put their own money to build, but with this mandate they can bring in foundations and others to create an environment which would be then supporting. At the same time, I think there is a need for us to also build the capacity of FPOs to also work with private sector. And sometimes, I think many times we romanticize with the fact that our FPOs can solve all the problems. It's not the case. Maybe 15-20% FPOs can do the way private sector works, but there are so many things certain private sector can do. Like for example, the R&D S4S is doing, or the kind of things many other companies are doing, that needs that kind of acumen, that kind of paraphernalia. So for that,
20% FPOs who are capable, we need not worry. But the rest of the companies, the rest of the FPOs, how we orient them, how we really see that their sourcing, then backward integration, technology convergence, also finance can happen with private sector. So that would be the third area, second area. Third area, I think, government through certain mechanism can also highlight these impact stories. It is very important for this community, private sector also to get a kind of a patting that government is also telling that we are working with so and so company and they are doing this with our NPOs. If last but not least, with so much talk about the agroecology, when we talk about private sector, I think market is heart of this. Yes. At the micro level, I think we many times forget the strength of micro markets. I don't know, Santas or Sandys or weekly markets. I think time has come to again relook about those kind of systems where we can create a landscape of villages around the Santa, Sandy or Hart. Like you talked about the weekly market, you are creating, there are already existing weekly markets. Can we make them center of growth for the agroecology? And when we talk about that, it's not the big corporates, these are smaller micro enterprises, they can be supported, and many of them would also be FPOs or local entrepreneurs. So I would say, in the discourse of FPOs, in discourse of private sector, I think we should give enough importance to micro level private sectors, which is revolving around this art system, which is a very important dimension to look at.